Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's Financial Security for All Community of Practice webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. This webinar focuses on extension educators who work in the personal finance, family resource management, consumer economics areas. One thing that's always been a hallmark of extension work is that grassroots connection, that grassroots program planning. And in local communities and counties and states across the country, our extension educators work with local community and business leaders to identify priorities and target programs that will improve quality of life for extension clients and community members. And one of those things that seems to have some consistency, although there are differences in local areas and states and regions, one of the things that pops up all the time is the need to help people build financial stability. And we're lucky to have with us today someone from Consumer Financial Protection Bureau who has a long history of collaborating with people in grassroots work. So we're welcoming Jill Wheeler today, and we'll be talking about the Your Money, Your Goals program. So this is a program many of us as extension educators have used. We've used it most recently here in Arkansas as the main source of resource materials for our master money mentors, and we've really enjoyed the empowerment toolkit and as well as the companion guides that help us target those programs for certain audiences. Joining Jill today, Jill is Senior Financial Program Specialist in Community Affairs with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And joining her today are Cassie Russell and Breezy Ferreira, both from ICF, who is working with Consumer Financial Protection Bureau on the Your Money, Your Goals programs. So please join me in welcoming them today, and I'll turn it over to Jill.
Thank you so much, Laura and Samantha and team, everyone who's made this possible today. We are so happy to be here with you all, and we would love to hear a little more about you. So if you wouldn't mind putting your name, your affiliation, what city or state you're coming from, we would love to hear a little more about you. And we will be using the chat throughout the session. We'll reserve some time for questions at the end. But we're so happy to be with you today. For some of you, we know this will be a new experience to learn about the Your Money, Your Goals suite of resources. We know that many others are experienced users and want to give sort of a refresher, show you some of the latest tools that are available, and give a little update on what the Bureau is up to these days. And thanks, I see many of you are joining us in the chat. Great to see people coming from several different states. A quick personal note, for me, this is especially exciting to be here and working with you all. I grew up on a dairy farm in Western Massachusetts, and really my experience there, seeing the transitions, economic changes, the impact on family farms really shaped my upbringing and interest long-term. So I'm really excited to be here with you all looking at these topics. So I will jump right in and quickly give our legal disclaimer we're required to give. Please keep in mind this should not be considered legal guidance or advice. We will certainly do our best to represent the opinions of the Bureau, but all speakers' opinions and statements are their own. Throughout our sessions, we always try to give a lot of practical tips and examples. We will refer to other third-party content. We recognize there are many resources available that may also meet these needs. Our tools are designed to complement other resources, but if we mention other sources, please don't consider that an endorsement of those materials. So now I want to give just a quick background on the Consumer Financial Bureau, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which we refer to often as just the Bureau or CFPB. As many of you know, we are a federal agency. We were founded in 2010 to focus on bringing together many aspects of consumer financial law. Our job is to make sure that markets work for consumer financial products and services in a manner that is fair, transparent, and effective. This means that we work to really empower, educate, and enforce to make sure that the companies are following the law, to take action when laws are broken or companies are acting in a predatory manner. And another important part of our work is making sure that people understand the full range of options that are available to them, that they have full information to make decisions that best meet their financial needs given their financial situation. So our focus, particularly in the past year or so, has been really ramping up on, even in the education division, how we talk about and really dive into the topic of consumer protection. So when we talk about consumer protection, we mean that your money or the money of people you serve is really protected from bad actors if they don't follow the laws or the rules. We want to make sure that any of the pricing and competitive market, that those prices, risks, and terms are clear to consumers upfront so they can make the best decisions for themselves. In an educational context, that often means helping really pull out what are not only the fees up front, but down the road, what additional costs might you incur? What are the pros and cons of different products or services to make sure that people fully understand the range of options available to them? And then very importantly, and we'll talk later about our complaints function, working with you all and other government agencies to make sure that if laws are broken, people can exercise their legal rights, that consumers know their rights and know how to take action to make sure that companies are following those laws. I want to briefly mention a link to our homepage, which is consumerfinance.gov. Today, we'll focus primarily on the empowerment tools and resources that can be used with clients or in training sessions. But I also want to make sure that you're aware on our website, we try to keep materials really updated based on the latest topics, needs, and issues. So during the pandemic, we saw a huge need for information about housing-related resources and protections. So with other government agencies, we created a special page to support homeowners and renters during the pandemic. We often update based on changes in laws or new information. So please do keep an eye on our homepage for the latest resources. We also encourage you to sign up for our mailing list. We'll put that in the chat a little bit later, but it's on our main Your Money, Your Goals homepage that we'll share in a moment. So briefly, just want to talk about what we mean by financial empowerment. So we see financial empowerment as a combination of the financial education content along with the skills and confidence to really use that knowledge. So it's not only getting the information to people, but making sure they have the confidence to take action and follow up and really act upon their goals. And in this context and the important work you do, we see that really the best way to support people is by providing that content and confidence building through trusted local intermediaries on the ground. So people like you who are working with individuals, organizations, businesses across the country, you're in a trusted environment to provide that content. And I certainly remember growing up the role of extension agents, our 4-H leaders, in really being those trusted sources for information about what opportunities were out there, what resources were available. So we're really excited to partner with you all in sharing this information and supporting your work in any way that we can. I'd like to ask Samantha now to activate our first poll. So in today's session, we are going to showcase a range of tools covering a variety of topics. To help guide our conversation, we would love to hear, in terms of you and the people you're sharing information with, which of these money topics is highest priority? What would you most like to hear about today? Whether it's budgeting and money management, credit, debt, consumer protection, which includes identity theft and similar resources, or other topics. So feel free to add details in the chat. If you could go ahead and vote, we'll take a minute and see the results. And I will mention that later in the session, we'll talk a little more about a couple series, deep dive series that we're planning. One coming up for the general public in June. And then we're working with Laura Hendricks and many other leaders to plan a deeper series in the fall, customized for cooperative extension partners. So could we see the poll results? And then in just a moment, I'll turn it over to Cassie to jump into an overview of our materials. But I see that here, the top priority, over 50%, flagged that budgeting and basic money management is a priority issue. So we'll make sure to highlight some of those tools and resources today. Other topics were about 17% mentioned credit, debt, and consumer protection. So we will make sure to touch on those topics and tools as well. And I will turn back to the chat while Cassie Russell, who is one of our experienced technical assistance providers, has a lot of deep experience as a practitioner in the field. Cassie, would you jump in and talk a little more about our latest resources?
Thanks so much, Jill, and thank you all for being here. My name is Cassie, and I'm part of the ICF team that supports the work of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau on Your Money, Your Goals. So what is Your Money, Your Goals? We have a suite of resources that can help you in your financial empowerment work. First, we have a toolkit, and this is comprehensive information for practitioners. There's 9 different modules with tools and handouts on a variety of topics. And this is not a curriculum. We certainly have folks who use this in classroom-based settings, whether it's in person or online. But this is really meant to respond to the needs and financial concerns of the folks that you're working with. Then to take things a step further, we have 4 companion guides. And this helps contextualize the money conversation to the unique needs of specific populations. So we have focus on Native communities, focus on military communities, focus on reentry, and focus on people with disabilities. And then we have 4 booklets, and the booklets are spiral bound, and there's 8 colorful tools that address a common financial concern. So we have behind on bills, building your savings, want credit to work for you, and debt getting in your way. And I will hold up a booklet to show you what that looks like here. So this is a booklet. Sometimes it's a little hard with Zoom. It thinks I'm part of the background, but they have these colorful tools. And then if we open them up, we see a modified version of the tool that's in the toolkit. So there is no electronic version of these. These are meant to be used in person. 2 of them are available in Spanish, and we'll talk about some of those details in just a moment. My colleague Breezy is going to put this link in the chat that you see on your slide, but you can also click on that on any of the links throughout today's presentation. They're all live links. And all the materials are available for free, including shipping to order, and we'll walk through how to make an order in a moment as well. So let's take a closer look at each product. So here we see the toolkit has 43 tools and handouts. And what I really like about the toolkit is you can use this in collaboration with the folks that you're working with, whether you're an expert on this topic or it's something that you're still learning about. There is a gray sheet that starts each tool, and it says what to do with 3 to 4 steps to get you and the person that you're working with started. There are topics, everything from that money management that we heard earlier was really important, to debt, credit, consumer protection, student loans, auto loans, medical debt, all those topics that we know folks are really grappling with in their lives. So we're going to look at some of these tools later. In addition to ordering the tools, There are individual tools available for download on the website that are autofill, auto-calculate. So those are great tools to kind of take the math out of it for folks that are interested in doing things on the computer or a tablet. Of course, you can print them or order printed copies as well, but just another way in case that's of interest to folks. And then we have the companion guides, which Jill is going to talk to us about now.
Great. Thank you so much, Cassie. And we'd love to hear stories along the way of how people are using these different materials. So feel free to share in the chat. The companion guides, as Cassie mentioned, address a range of topics. A couple of them we have heard from other sessions may be highest priority in this audience. So I wanted to highlight the companion guide called the Focus on People with Disabilities. So this guide offers specialized tools and additional examples and context for using the materials for people and families with disabilities. There are a few specialized tools, and I wanted to just highlight a couple of the most popular. So all of this is based on the idea that everyone has a right to control their own money and make their own financial decisions. We developed these guides with a lot of input from the disability community in this case, and field input in all of these materials. But what we've seen have been some of the most popular tools. One is around setting up an ABLE account or achieving a better life experience account to build savings. It offers, as some of you may know, specialized tax benefits and other protections to help people who may be receiving benefits but are eligible to build a savings account for certain costs related to disabilities. Some of the tools help look at the options, comparing accounts that are available in different states. Other tools help people look at ways to pay for assistive technology to build independence. So whether it's a wheelchair, a vehicle adaptation, or technology to build independence, it can help people, lay out the options, costs, and also often look at links to other local and regional resources. Another really popular tool helps people understand how income from work might impact Social Security income. People are often afraid that working will reduce benefits, and this tool helps illustrate that in many or most cases, they will be better off if they're able to add some income from work, and it would not affect, or it will show how exactly it would offset the SSI income. And finally, there are some tools to help identify and deal with financial abuse and exploitation. Our next guide is called Focus on Reentry, and I want to highlight this was just updated in August of 2021. So this is an updated version, streamlined. This has been a topic across the Bureau, and I've heard from many of you that is really ramping up in interest and importance, helping people who are either reentering after incarceration or involved in the justice system in some stage or dealing with criminal debt. It helps people look at the needs, identify specific financial challenges that may affect their successful transition. It helps people obtain documents related to ID and easing the transition process. And then some important tools helping to really prioritize and understand the impact of criminal justice debt, the impact of paying off or prioritizing different bills and debts. And another really important topic, we're seeing a lot of interest, concern, and challenges around understanding background screening reports, how they affect the employment application process. We have other information related to tenant screening reports, but again, making sure people understand what their rights are, how to view their reports, how to correct any errors. So I will turn it back to Cassie. I encourage you to take a look at these particular guides and some of the specific tools. They're available in print and online versions. And then I would like to turn it now back over to Cassie to talk a little further about the booklets.
Thanks so much, Jill. So as I mentioned earlier, we have 4 booklets that all have 8 colorful tools to address a common financial concern or situation. So we're going to take a deeper look at each one. And while we do that, just on the topic of reentry, if you are doing any work in jails, prisons, or mental health facilities where spiral binding is not allowed, there is a special way to order these booklets without the binding. So if that's of concern, we have a resource for that, and you can just click on it in the order form. But if you have any trouble finding it, feel free to reach out to us. So the first booklet is Behind on Bills, Start with One Step. And this really helps somebody create an action plan to reduce that financial stress and work towards getting caught up. So in this booklet, we look at tracking income and managing expenses, and then prioritizing bills, because sometimes we know there just isn't enough. So considering, what do I need to get to work or school or remain housed? What's my priority right now? And how can I use my money to help me with those goals? This booklet's available in both English and in Spanish. And then we have Want Credit to Work For You. We know credit is a hot topic, so this helps somebody learn how to order, review their credit report, check it for errors, and make any disputes if they need to. It also has an action plan so that somebody can get started either building or rebuilding credit. So if you have somebody who's interested in a secured credit card or a credit builder loan, maybe they're trying to establish credit for the first time or rebuild after bankruptcy, there's that information in there as well. And then there's also information on how to respond to identity theft. And later, Jill is going to share some information and resources about that, and also your role in helping consumers navigate when things do go wrong in the financial marketplace. And this one is also available in English and Spanish. And then we have Debt Getting in Your Way. So this helps somebody create a debt log. You know, for many of us, we don't know exactly how much we owe or the interest rate. So we start with really getting a full picture and then coming up with a plan for repayment and different priorities and goals. There's also information about medical debt and student loans, which you know is a very hot topic right now. So check out those tools as well. And then our last booklet is Building Your Savings. So this helps somebody really prioritize and set savings goals, create a rainy day fund, and then also to plan how to use their tax refunds. So if they want to prepay insurance for the year or get new tires or do something fun with their family, there's a nice template that they can use to really think about how to plan for and effectively use a refund if they'll be getting one. So I'm going to turn it over to Jill, who's going to talk to us a little bit about some videos that you can use in your work.
Great. Thanks, Cassie. And after I mention the videos, Samantha, I'll pull up a shared screen to walk through the ordering process for materials. But first, I want to just briefly mention we do have a pretty popular webpage that includes a variety of videos that can be used. Especially, we found them helpful when people are introducing a tool or topic. So if you want to give someone, most of these are 2 to no more than 3 minutes, and just give a quick overview on some topics. There are a number related to credit, debt, broader financial products and services, including payday loans, and then some other short videos on paying bills and saving. So we just encourage you to take a look at these resources. And we always love to hear in the chat or by email what type of resources are most helpful to you all. We are seeing more interest in, short video clips, presenting the materials in different formats. So always appreciate your feedback. Yeah. Now I want to go on and share my screen.
And just while you pull up your screen, I just wanted to mention, I know somebody mentioned in the chat that they use some of the Your Money, Your Goals materials in a curriculum that they designed. And it's always great for these materials to be used. Please feel free to use them. You're welcome to reformat and make them work for your audience. Same thing for the videos. Feel free to text them to the folks that you're working with, put them on social media. It's really designed to be used in the field by all of you.
Great. And now I'm hoping everyone is seeing my screen. I'm on the publications ordering website. And if Breezy or Cassie can put that direct link in the chat, we are giving you all a link to order the starter pack. So we bundled the main materials in a simple starter pack. So that includes the full set of a single toolkit and one of each of those booklets. As you see, we found that the website is not the easiest to navigate, but if you go to the link we used, you can click on the Your Money, Your Goals starter pack, and in the upper right, you'll see an option to select the quantity, so you can order 1, 5, or 10 copies of that pack. So that's a good way to get an initial set of materials if you're just getting familiar with the program. Again, all of these resources are free, so you just click Add to Cart and it'll take you through a checkout process. I wanted to just go back a little bit. If you see, when you're in the details on any of these Your Money, Your Goals materials, if you want to get back to the main view, just look in the toolbar on the left. The Bureau has a wide variety of resources available for ordering. But if you click on the bottom left, Your Money, Your Goals, this will take you to a main page where you can either look at the starter packs, the full set under Your Money, Your Goals, or specific materials with the unbound version for correctional facilities. I'll just quickly click in here to the main Your Money, Your Goals option. And here you'll see the full set, the individual behind on bills in English, in Spanish, this building your savings, debt, credit, and then each of the companion guides. So what you can do is scroll through this whole set, and in each one, for example, if you want to order a particular publication, just click in. They come in different quantities. So usually you can order up to 40 or 50 in a single batch, sometimes up to 100. And if you need additional copies of the materials, just email us and we can help facilitate a large order. So I will stop there and head back to Cassie's screen for the deck, but I'm checking the chat to see if there are any questions coming up. And I don't see any at the moment, but we're happy to come back to those. So Cassie, now if you could take us and walk through some of the key tools in the extensive toolkit and show some examples of the online tools as well, that would be helpful.
Thanks so much, Jill. So as we mentioned, the toolkit is large, but we don't want it to be overwhelming. So there are 9 modules and an introduction. And the modules are divided by topics so that you can easily access the table of contents to find the information that you're looking for. And again, I know I mentioned this earlier, but if you really like one tool, let's say in module 4, you can take that and include it in your materials and your resources. Use it. It has our logo, so you're welcome to include it in anything that you share with folks. So this is just to show the different topics. I know that we heard a lot that money management was really your top priority. So we are going to look at some tools in module 3, tracking income and benefits, module 4, paying bills, and module 5, getting through the month. And then we'll talk about a few different tools that are in the toolkit without really going into detail. And then we'll come back together to talk about consumer protection in module 9. So I'm just going to quickly go through some of the things that are in the toolkit. So module 1 is on setting goals. So for example, we have a tool putting goals into action, which helps somebody make a SMART goal and then really break down those sub-steps, right? So we know that if somebody wants to get a job by September 1st, maybe their first step is to go collect addresses and phone numbers of previous employers, or to get help at your local workforce development board with their resume. So we know there's all those sub steps that people might need to be working on. So that putting goals into action tool really helps them break it down. Then in module 2, we cover savings, which we're not going to look at today, but we know that's an important topic. So there's a variety of tools on making a savings plan, saving at tax time, and other resources. But you said money management was the most important. So we're going to get started by looking at module 3, tracking income and benefits. And so the first tool that we see here is our income and benefits tracker. So to get started, you're going to ask somebody to gather all their pay stubs, benefit statements, or records of electronic payments. So if you're doing this, you might want to give somebody a heads up to bring those things, or you might want to give them the tool and have them fill it out over a week or 2. And we want people to total up their income. And here we see in the right side of the tool, this term to know. So it shares information about net versus gross income. And we want people to have an exact amount, I think, especially for folks that are working multiple jobs or working in the gig economy. They might have a lot of fluctuations in income and might not actually be aware of what they're bringing in. I also like this because it can act as sort of a checklist or a primer to get people thinking about benefits they might qualify for. So if somebody is sharing information about their job and they're bringing in a couple of $100 working on call at a retail place, it's an opportunity to say, hey, you might qualify for a supplemental nutrition assistance program, SNAP, or EBT as people call it. So this really helps somebody get started by tracking what's coming in. And I'm going to show you how to find the tools that are autofill, auto-calculate in just a moment on the next one, which will take us into module 4 on paying bills. So I'm going to stop my share and go to the website. So this is the main Your Money, Your Goals landing page, and a couple of things to call out here. You can always access Submit a Complaint, which Jill will talk about a little bit later. It's on the top right hand of every page. So if somebody wants to submit online, that's great. You can also access some of the information. Not all of the website is available in all of these languages, but you can toggle and see what information is available quite easily by just clicking here, clicking back. So if we go back to that resources for practitioners page, and then we're going to click on Your Money, Your Goals, we see an example of one of those videos Jill mentioned. This is on prioritizing bills. So if you're working with folks who are having a hard time staying current, that's a tool that you can use. And then if we click on Access the Toolkit here, we'll see you can download the full toolkit in English, Spanish, and Chinese. There's also a link to that order form that Jill showed us. And then we can download the individual tools and handouts. So for example, we looked at the income and benefits tracker. So if I click on download tool, we'll see that gray page I mentioned with the what to do. So again, you don't need to even really be an expert on this topic to work with somebody on their financial goals. And then we see some more detailed instructions and here that things are autofill, auto-calculate. So as I add information here, we see that $200 is coming down here. Maybe I'm getting $415 in SNAP. I have a large family. So we see, okay, I have $615 coming in throughout the month and I'm paid once a month. And then I get my SNAP once a month. So that just takes care of things. It's easy for people to add. Let's say I do a side job that week, and then maybe my income is steady the rest of the month. So as I make those changes, we see the bottom amounts change as well. So looking at other ways to manage money, we know what's coming in, but we need to know what's going out and what bills to prioritize. So first, we're going to look at the spending tracker. And this encourages people to either keep receipts or track expenses online, or use just one debit or credit card or prepaid card for a period of time so that they can track their expenses. Then we see a list of categories in the spending tracker. And again, we have that same autofill, auto-calculate. So we have cell phone, debt payments, eating out. Just like the income, we want to give some prompts. We also have others. So if there's something that people aren't ready to share with us, we still want to make sure that they're setting aside or tracking that expense. And then one thing we just like to highlight here is that the expenses are listed alphabetically, because it's really for the individual to prioritize their expenses or bills. So speaking of prioritizing bills, we know that sometimes there might not be enough. Especially during COVID, maybe people were waiting on ERAP or other assistance to come through. And so this really helps somebody think, okay, what should I pay first right now based on my priorities? So this asks someone to consider, what are the things I need for my job? Do I need to pay my car payment for car insurance? Do I need a bus pass, equipment or uniform, childcare? And then it asks us to prioritize. So maybe my car is number one for me. And that's because of these things to consider. So if I miss a car payment, I might have to pay a late fee. I risk repossession. I might have a negative entry on my credit record, and my credit score also might be lowered. Then we have information about insurance. So car insurance, which I mentioned, health insurance, renters, things I need to stay housed. What obligations do I need to pay? And in the updated focus on reentry, there's additional information about court-ordered fines and fees. So if that's something that is a consideration for the folks you're working with, I encourage you to look at that specialized tool. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to our deck, and we're going to look at module 5 on getting through the month. Okay, so getting through the month is really all about budgeting, and we use a cash flow budget. And I know many of you have deep expertise, but basically a cash flow budget is just different because instead of totaling up your income and expenses, you're also going to account for timing. So since we've already done that income tracker and our spending tracker, we also have a bill calendar that people can use for regular bills. We have all that information, and then we can add it to our cash flow so we can really look at the timing of income and expenses and make adjustments if we need to. So this is what the cash flow budget looks like with some sample numbers. So we see here we have a starting weekly balance. So this was held over from the previous month. And then this person receives $300 from job 1, $100 from job 2. And so if we add that to that $250, they end up with $650. And then we're going to start to subtract weekly expenses. So we see here that they have a total of $400 in expenses. So then we put that, they have $400 after their expenses. So then we put that in the start of week 2. So more often what we see, right, is maybe rent is due, and that's a big expense at the beginning of the month. And so maybe somebody's negative here. So we're going to need to work with them to set aside money from the previous month, or maybe to help them advocate with creditors to say, can I move my credit card payment or my car note payment due date or my student loan due date so that it aligns better with my income. So there's multiple approaches to helping somebody manage their money with a cash flow budget. So I want to pause here and see what we have in the chat. Yes, the cash flow budget might be helpful to consumers as they manage increased household expenses like food and gas prices. Absolutely. And again, this is autofill, auto-calculate, so it's really easy for people to make adjustments as they need to. So I wanted to mention Module 6 is on dealing with debt. And so we always just want to make sure that people know their rights. So the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act protects consumers from harassment. So whether that's repeated phone calls, obscene language, threats or violence of harm, we want to make sure that people know their rights. And Jill's going to talk to us a little bit later on about what to do when those rights aren't respected. But we also have a debt log, which is also in the Dealing with Debt booklet. And just like with income and expenses, we find that many people just need to get started by having complete information. So when is the debt due? What's the amount left to pay? Are they current? What's the interest rate? Then Module 7 is on credit. And one thing to mention is that there's this checklist for reviewing your credit report. And then there's a handout that helps somebody dispute errors on their credit report. So it can be used to help them contact both a credit reporting company or credit bureau and the person or company that provided the information, which is often called a furnisher. So we want people to reach out to the doctor's office or the landlord and the credit reporting company or credit bureau. So there's all the information that they need there. Right now, I use the website for information on how to get a credit report because things are a little bit different. Right now, consumers are entitled to weekly reports from Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion because of COVID. So don't use the handout for that. We don't have it in here today because of that. And then for Equifax customers, there's additional reports that they can access through 2026 because of that data breach. So some special things around credit right now, and you can find all of the details on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau website. We have a great tool called Ask CFPB, which is kind of like an internal search. So that way you can search just on the CFPB website and know you're getting trusted, accurate information that's not tied toward a particular financial institution or perspective. It's just meant to provide accurate, up-to-date information. Then in Module 8, we have information on choosing financial products and services. So here we see a tool on comparing financial services providers. So if somebody's interested in a prepaid card or getting a checking or savings account, this really helps remind them that they're a customer. And even if they've experienced challenges with check systems or early warning or other consumer reporting companies, that they can still evaluate companies based on access, fees, and any products or services that they're interested in using. So I'm going to turn it over to Jill, who's going to talk to us about some of the tools in Module 9 on protecting your money and the Bureau and your all's role in protecting financial harm.
Thanks, Cassie. And great. I now have permission to share. And before we dive into the protection from financial harm, we wanted to take a quick poll. In a moment, we'll talk more about trainings that are coming up this spring and fall. Now that you all have seen a variety of the tools and resources, the latest materials available, we would love to hear which of these materials would be most useful to do a deep dive for, would you most like to learn more about? Would you like to see in greater depth on the toolkit itself, the booklets, strategies for using the booklets, any of the particular companion guides, whether it's reentry, people with disabilities, or other topics? We also have a number of Spanish and other language resources. Would you like to hear more on all, or please share any other details in the chat? And I do see a question as people are taking the poll about the PowerPoint decks. We have some training PowerPoint decks available. We will make sure to share this deck after the session. And if you let us know more about your needs, we can often help customize PowerPoint decks for you and your training sessions. So if we could see the poll results, I see a lot of variety on all of those topics, with including the toolkit booklets. Almost half of the voters noted an interest in re-entry, and about over 40% on the People with Disability Guide, about 30% on other language resources. So that'll be helpful in framing our preparation for some upcoming sessions. Thanks so much. So now I'll just quickly cover a few additional resources, and then we'll open it up to broader questions. So Module 9 focuses on preventing financial harm. There are a number of handouts and background in this section. One that we see is pretty popular is on spotting red flags. And this, if you're doing a group training session, there are some nice interactive suggestions of activities you can do, skits, ways to present that information in different training methods. But there's a handout about how to spot red flags, whether it's in making major purchases or dealing with service providers. So topics like pressured sales tactics, inconsistency in the information, or getting information in writing. And again, all of these are designed around really protecting consumer rights and helping them flag when things might be going a little wrong. Let's see, another really important issue that we see a lot these days and want to disseminate information about how to handle identity theft. So seeing this is a pretty common topic, unfortunately. So there's a handout talking about how to handle identity theft, what to do, the steps to go through in filing a report. There's also some information in this module about how to protect your identity. So sharing best practices, making sure people know how they can avoid it, but then what to do once it happens to them. And again, we always, if it's not an issue that we specifically handle, when complaints or concerns come in, we will channel those to the other appropriate government agencies. So now I wanted to take a moment and highlight, give a little more background on the Bureau's role in handling complaints about a wide variety of financial products and services. We saw that there was an interest and a need to better understand our role. So we did create a short video, which is about 3 minutes long, that helps walk people through how they can submit a complaint if they feel like a company violated the law, is treating them unfairly, or they have an issue that they've tried to resolve with the company, but they're just not getting the response that they think they deserve. And again, let's see. So this video will sort of walk through, here are the topics that we cover. So it's a wide range, a variety of products, from credit cards, basic bank accounts, prepaid cards, money transfers, mortgages, a number of topics related to credit reporting. And that's one of the topics we most frequently receive complaints about, whether it's errors on the credit report that they have not been able to, a consumer has not been able to get corrected. If they feel something is wrong and they haven't been able to get traction, they can submit a complaint, and the Bureau team will help forward the complaint to the company. Companies typically respond in about 15 days, and consumers can track the process of their complaint in the system. I'll highlight that people can submit complaints on behalf of others. So if you're working with someone who just doesn't have the time or the energy or the confidence to submit a complaint themselves, you can help them or submit on their behalf if you have the basic details. And then one important resource that some of you may be interested in is on the Bureau website. All of these little details are published without personal data or account numbers to protect privacy, but all of the complaints that are submitted go into a database that's available to the public. So if you want to get a sense of what's happening in your state, or you can even search down to zip code, you'll be able to see the topics that people are complaining about, the companies that have been the subject of complaints, and you'll be able to see get a lot of data about what's happening in your region. So I want to highlight that the simplest, fastest way to submit a complaint to the Bureau is by going to our website. So consumerfinance.gov/complaint. And in the upper right-hand corner of all of our web pages, you'll see a little link to click on Submit a Complaint. That'll take you through an online system. It takes about 7 to 10 minutes to just go through the process and submit the complaint. You'll need a little basic information about, the amounts involved, the account number, to provide that to the company to get a response. But that helps the consumer get their issue resolved. It also helps the Bureau. This data is really important in driving our enforcement priorities and in providing input that shapes regulatory work. One important takeaway I want to highlight for all of you is that we do see that some consumers are underrepresented in the database. We think that not everyone is submitting the same, proportionate number of complaints. We are really interested in receiving complaints from rural areas, other underrepresented populations. The more data we receive, the more we can do our job enforcing the law. So we encourage you to submit using the system. We also encourage you to keep an eye out for trends, emerging concerns. You can reach out to our team and we will help directly connect you with the appropriate contacts within the Bureau. So I'll make sure to share my email address. It's jill.wheeler@cfpb.gov. And our team inbox is yourmoneyyourgoals@cfpb.gov. So please do keep us updated on complaints. Take a look at the data. If you're interested in receiving a more detailed walkthrough of how you can analyze that public data, we would be happy to arrange that down the road as well. So finally, I wanted to just highlight a couple additional resources. And on the complaints, just do want to note that you can submit a complaint in writing. You can also submit by telephone. So I'll just loop back to give that number, but you can submit by phone, and there are interpreters available in over 180 languages and accessible services. So we also welcome you to submit by phone and are doing our best to make that process accessible to everyone. So quickly, just to flag, one really helpful resource on our website is Ask CFPB. It's a searchable tool that you can plug in questions. You can search by topics or browse by different issue areas. It provides a lot of answers and direct links to frequently asked questions on a wide variety of topics. You'll see the link in the chat. I want to mention in June, we will be holding a 4-part detailed training series open to the public that will dive into all of the detailed modules in the toolkit covering the topics we've mentioned today. We encourage you to register for that if you're interested. And then in addition, we're working with cooperative extension leaders, including Laura Hendricks, to plan a fall web series customized to your needs. So again, we will be looking at the topics you flagged and additional feedback from the leaders that we're in touch with in a number of states on this call today. But we are planning an in-depth series. So this would highlight probably some of the guides, some of the information in the toolkit, and other priorities you mentioned. It would be from 12:30 to 1:30 Eastern, 11:30 to 12:30 Central Time on 6 Thursdays in September. So a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the week of September 20th, and again at those same times, the week of September 27th. We'll share some information, additional info on how to register. And then finally, want to open it up. I know we're getting close on time, but open up to additional questions that have come in along the way. You can plug them in the chat or use the Q&A function. I see one, and then I'll hand back to Cassie or Laura to flag others. I did see a request for information on the financial well-being scale. which is a quick, simple assessment tool to measure a person's overall financial well-being. We plugged that in the chat. Would love to hear how people are using those.
Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today. Hope to see you at those either the June or the September extension focused training dates. I'm so excited about that. We'll be sending the registration link to you via email to our group and also to our local county agents. And just much appreciation to the folks at CFPB and ICF for their work in this area that's so close to our hearts.